And what's going on, guys? We're back. This is a little different from previously. I'm doing a live stream of my own perspective from this game. So I am playing Luke Skywalker with Jeddah City, and I'm playing against Sabine with Jeddah City, with Woo leading the other side of the board there. And we're gonna see how this goes. So a Sabine deck could be scary. We'll have to see how this goes. I personally think Sabine is quite strong. I'm a little worried that I'm going to get aggroed out this game, but we'll have to see how it goes. My opponent won the roll to go first, so let's have it going on here. Leads off with Greedo. One cost 3/1. When defeated, you may discard a card from your deck. If it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. I'm going to answer Greedo with C3PO, and I will guess 2. And it is a 2. I will draw a surprise strike. So C3PO, choose a number, then look at the top card of your deck. If it's cost of the chosen number, you may reveal and draw it. Otherwise, leave it on top of your deck. End up hitting there, getting a surprise strike. And ooh, the Infiltrator's skill on C3PO there. Okay. Attached unit gains Saboteur. And +1/+1 does mean that C3PO would just be defeated by Greedo there. I'll take the initiative. Drawing 2 cards. What I really want. Oh, I shoot first. I am a lucker. That is a lucky draw. Yeah, and my opponent does Sabine's ability there. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to take advantage of shoot first here with C3PO into Greedo. Hitting for 2 with the combat damage before the defender. Guess 2 and not a 2. And see, so Greedo's ability here is you may discard a card from your deck if it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. So discard's a card, but it's a wing leader, so it doesn't do damage to 3PO. And then I'm going to play a Lothal Insurgent, which is if you played another card this phase, each opponent draws a card and then discards a random card from their hand. And so it ends up being another Greedo who gets discarded there. And my opponent had played a Starwing Scout, 3 cost 4/1. When defeated, if you have the initiative, draw 2 cards. Ends up taking the initiative here rather than using Sabine's ability. I will pass, draw 2, resource up with something here. Okay, so Sabine Wren can deploy this turn, so I want to keep this Fleet Lieutenant to try and defeat her immediately with my Lothal Insurgent. I could also defeat her with this takedown. I actually really have a lot of options to potentially kill her. I think I'll resource Kanan because I want to play either Fleet Lieutenant or Takedown this turn. And so having that doesn't make a lot of sense. Starwing Scout swings in, dealing 4 damage to me. I am going to have C3PO attack, and I'll guess 2. C3PO does another point of damage to the enemy base, misses the draw there with an Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think what I'm going to do here is I don't want to telegraph that I can kill Sabine, so I'm going to have the Lothal Insurgent just hit the base for 3. Um, and now my opponent deploys Sabine, and I will take her out with Takedown, defeating it with 5 or less remaining HP. Very strong counter because she has bad stats. My opponent brings out a Millennium Falcon, 3 cost 3/4, enters play ready. I unfortunately don't have a good counter to that right now, so I'm going to take 3 more damage on the base. I'm a little worried now because my opponent is pushing a lot of damage in space, and I don't have units immediately available to contest that. If I don't get something out, even though I'm doing well on the ground right now, I need to get something that can stop these space units. And Obi-Wan Kenobi is not it. Yeah, I'm going to take 7 more damage in the space arena this turn, and that might prove insurmountable. So what I need to do here is attack with C3PO and look for removal. So in particular, I guess what I want here is takedown or vanquish. I have already played a takedown, and I have already resourced a vanquish. So what I really want is another takedown. So I'm going to attack and guess 4. See if I can draw it. Nope, it was a vanquish. A little unlucky there. Or not actually unlucky, but not what I wanted to see. So then I take 4 damage there. Can't really avoid that, unfortunately. I will Fleet Lieutenant my Lothal Insurgent into the base for 5. I am pushing a lot of damage myself, but I'm not quite there. I take 3 damage here. I'm actually going to take the initiative here instead of giving a shield to my fleet lieutenant. The situation's only getting worse with a Green Squadron A-Wing in space. I really need to get some kind of answer to that space arena. But it's not showing up just yet. Let's see if I can draw into it. I know I have the Vanquish at least. So probably what I'm going to have to do this turn is use Vanquish on my opponent's Starwing Scout. But I would still take 6 damage in space, which is really a lot. However, I can do six, 7, 8, 9. I can do. Oh, you know what? I'm actually not going. Well, no, I have to because he has lethal. It's a tough situation here. I think I might lose this game, but it's going to be close. So I will lead off with the Vanquish on the Starwing Scout, get that off the board. That will remove at least some of the incoming damage. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I'll have 4 more with Luke. So what I need to do is C3PO attack and guess 1, and if I get a shoot first, I can kill this turn. Of course, I might die if my opponent has a surprise strike. Nope, that's gonna miss. And if it's a surprise strike, that's game. It's not, it's a shoot first, but that's still going to be game because my opponent can use Sabine to win the game. I have almost lethal this turn, but I'm not going to get a chance to do it. So ultimately, wasn't able to draw stuff to contest this space arena. Oh yeah, my opponent pings Jeddah City. That's a good point. I forgot to use this. I could have used that to negate one of those attacks, and it would have been good. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. I had forgotten about my Jeddah City. I was too focused on trying to get lethal myself, and I definitely could have played that and saved myself from some of that damage. I'm not sure if I would have actually won the game, but it might have opened stuff up some more. So that's ultimately going to be a defeat for Luke. And let's do another round. Um, let's see if I can do better. See if I can do better this time. So I had a pretty strong control of the ground arena, but space just went out of control for me, and wasn't really able to stabilize that in time. Weird hand. Okay, so this time I definitely do have some space stuff that I like. I'll resource here and here. We'll lead off with C3PO again, I think. And then I can potentially wing leader to buff C3PO, or I can use the Falcon to attack enemy space units if the opponent has an early fighter. So I will C3PO and guess 2. It is not a 2, but even more faith stuff there for me. And then we see the Green Squadron A-Wing. Okay. So I think what I want to do here is I'm going to take the initiative, 1 damage to each base, and I'm going to want to play the Falcon this turn and use that to take down the A-Wing. However, what I'm going to want to do is slow roll it and I'll attack with C3PO first, in the hopes that he will immediately attack with the A-Wing, and I can then bring out the Falcon once the A-Wing has already gone and use it to clear that out. Okay, so let's see here. I'll do just as I was saying. I'll attack with C3PO. I'll guess 2, draw a card, not a 2, or it wasn't drawing a card. I was looking at my top card. Hopefully my opponent attacks there. Yep, so that's good for me. 3 to the base. I deploy the Falcon, and then the Falcon is going to be able to attack into that A-Wing and kill it if my opponent doesn't somehow remove it. A waylay from my opponent here might be pretty annoying for me. Um, but if not, the Falcon will be able to deal with that A-Wing and only take 1 damage in return, which will be pretty efficient for me. We see a Falcon for my opponent. Okay. I will kill the A-Wing there and take 1. If my opponent uses the Falcon to defeat my Falcon, it's honestly something that I consider pretty acceptable. Okay, so now the opponent has a damaged Falcon there, but I'm gonna get the initiative and Sabine's ability used again. I can bring out this wing leader next turn and um, use that to try and continue contesting in the space arena. Let's see here. So wing lead, I'm trying to think if I can kill Sabine. I don't think there's actually an easy way for me to kill Sabine when she deploys this turn. So we're gonna go for this. Yeah. So this is gonna be yeah, wing leader. buff C3PO. So the Wing Leader is a classic unit here. When played, give 2 experience tokens from their friendly rebel. I'm going to get to shield it this turn with Luke's ability, which will then allow it to defeat that Falcon. If my opponent doesn't just let the Falcon go back to hand, but then I have a surprise strike waiting to kill the Falcon if it gets replayed. So 1 damage to each base from Sabine. C3PO will attack in say 2, and it's not a 2. And this deck doesn't have super reliable C3PO hits. I think I have 2 as my plurality, but it's not a majority. I have 22 costs, so I should hit about 40% of the time. And in this situation, I didn't, but more damage from Sabine, and my opponent's probably going to play something to develop the board. Fighters for Freedom. Okay. So not a great situation for me. I've taken a fair chunk of damage here, but it's also not over. This turn I can, let's see here. My wing leader can defeat the so my wing leader can defeat the Falcon, unless my opponent drops it back to hand. Probably get no, okay, opponent doesn't drop it back to hand, so first attack is just wing leader clearing the Falcon. Then if my opponent doesn't kill C3PO, I can surprise strike and kill whichever unit my opponent does not attack with. So we'll see what happens there. And then I can also play Leia Organa Defiant Princess. Let's see here. Okay, so my opponent hits for 3. Yeah, I think I want to kill the Fighters for Freedom, so I'm going to surprise strike C3PO into the Fighters for Freedom. That will kill them. He takes 3. I'm going to guess 2. See if I can actually hit one of these. There we go. Leia Organa Defiant Princess. So that goes to hand. And then if my opponent has another Falcon, I can exhaust it on deployment. And Luke will be able to deploy next turn. Um, let's see here. I don't like that A-Wing. I think there's still 2 resources. I can play Leia, but she doesn't do very much because there isn't a readied unit. Oh, I can do Leia Organa and Spark of Rebellion to discard a card from my opponent's hand. That might be my best option. Yeah, we're going to try that. So I'm going to deploy Leia and use her to ready a resource. See if my opponent just claims or plays another thing, and then I'll have the remaining resources for this Spark of Rebellion to strip a card from my opponent's hand. And hopefully we'll draw some kind of attack buff, of which I have many, to defeat whichever of Sabine or that A-Wing doesn't attack me immediately. The opponent takes the initiative, so we're going to Spark of Rebellion, look at the opponent's hand and discard a card from it. I will take the Surprise Strike. That's a really, really dangerous card in this situation. I'm leaving my opponent with the Leia Organa, but I think that can't really be helped. And then I will draw 2. I have a takedown, so I didn't draw a direct method of buffing one of my units, but this takedown can kill one of his units. So that should hopefully be good enough. And then I guess I resource this. No, wait, I'll resource. Um, Man, I kind of want all these cards. I'm going to resource this cannon. I think he's a little slow for this situation. Okay, so we're probably going to see the Fleet Lieutenant coming in to buff in one of the attacks. Yep, that's right. So 5 damage there. I'm going to use my takedown to defeat the A-Wing. My remaining ground units can clear off Sabine and potentially the Fleet Lieutenant as well. Debuffing. Oh, okay, so debuffing with the with Jeddah City. So then I will. Let's see here. I can deploy Luke. Okay, so when I deploy Luke, my opponent is going to use his Leia Defiant Princess to exhaust Luke. And then I can use my Leia to trade with his and then replay potentially. But I'm not sure if that's actually like that good. I think I have to deploy Luke anyway. So my opponent's going to play Leia Organa Defiant Princess and exhaust Luke. I knew that was coming because I saw the hand. And I think now I need to take the initiative and hope to draw Obi-Wan to save the game here. I could obviously make some attacks, but if my opponent takes the initiative, I know he has a fleet lieutenant and that can buff one of those things. And didn't draw it, so that's game. Good game. Let's do one more of these. The early pressure from Sabine is very strong. Um, I'm I'm sort of leaning away from Luke at this time. I could be wrong, but I think I'd actually rather be playing Sabine. And one of the main reasons for that is that the new Boba Fett card, what's it called? No Good to Me Dead or whatever. Disabling a leader for 2 turns is really brutal for expensive, powerful leaders like Luke. I think it might actually make Vader non-viable. Just that one card alone might make Vader non-viable. Um, so that's kind of a big deal. I'm gonna resource here and here for now. Okay. This time I'm going to lead off with Leia, and I'm going to ready a resource. So this will allow me to then spend one on a shield for Leia, which will make her more relevant in that ground arena. My opponent does 1 damage to each base. I'll take the initiative. Draw 2. Let's see here. Luke's lightsaber is really good, but I don't think I can actually play it here. I could play it on Leia. I think I'm gonna want to. I'm gonna try and do the same thing with the Falcon that I did earlier. So we'll lead off with just hitting the base for 2. My opponent will probably play something. Looks like a Fleet Lieutenant play. Yep, Fleet Lieutenant play. So that will hit my base for 5. So then I'll bring out the Falcon, and my opponent will probably ping both our bases with Sabine. Okay, Jeddah City. This is a big misplay in my opinion. I can just now take initiative and kill him anyway. Um, so I think the Jeddah City there doesn't do anything. It means my Falcon can't attack the enemy base next turn, but that's not really very important. The important thing is stabilizing. So I'm pretty fine with that situation. I can shoot first in the ground arena to kill that fleet lieutenant with Leia. Hmm. But I might want to deploy something different. So yeah, shoot first plus the rogue operative is probably my play this turn. Alternatively, Kanan. But that's fine. So we'll start off. Falcon clears that off, takes 1 damage. Oh yeah, that's right. I do have to pay 1 for the Falcon. That's true. Um, so I guess I'm only going to get the rogue operative. Okay, shields the fleet lieutenant. That's fine. Okay, so I'll play out my rogue operative. The rogue operative can now counter the fleet lieutenant very directly. That shield is not good against it. I'll take 3. I will take the initiative. My opponent can deal 1 to each base with Sabine, then deploy Sabine and deal 3. And let's see here. Spends 2 for a basic X-Wing. Sure, Falcon can just trade into that. That's fine. It does mean I'm going to pay 1 to keep the Falcon in, which is maybe something relevant. Okay, so right here, so I can shoot first to have my rogue operative defeat Sabine. But what I actually want to do is I want to have the rogue operative defeat the fleet lieutenant because Saboteur pierces the shield. So Saboteur, when this unit attacks, ignore Sentinel and defeat the defender's shields. So Rogue Operative takes out the shielded Fleet Lieutenant. That's the only real way that I have to do that efficiently. Um, I'm going to I'm going to probably deploy Kanan this turn. I have the Falcon to fight against that tie. I still have Leia in the ground arena, so Leia could just swing into Sabine or do something. I don't know what that's going to look like. Let's see what my opponent does here. There could be a shoot first for that X-Wing to kill the Falcon. That would be kind of annoying. Ooh, surprise strike to the base. That's tough. And honestly, that's probably game. But we're gonna try and play it out. We'll play Kanan. So Kanan's gonna allow me to do some healing, hopefully. Opponent attacks my base, hitting for 3. I have to take the initiative here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna surprise strike I'm gonna surprise strike Kanan into Sabine, and then conceivably, nope, that's game. So I can shoot first, Kanan, kill Sabine, and then I can maybe heal two. But the problem is over here, he'll be able to hit me for four and then use Sabine's ability. Okay, so those were three relatively quick games, and unfortunately, my Cunning Luke was not fast enough for this Sabine. So what we need to think about in this sort of situation is sideboarding. Like, how are we going to potentially sideboard to counter this if we end up running up against it? So the answer is, I think what I need is I need to have some early sentinels and like early like ambush or removal type stuff to contest the early game more rather than some of these later gameplays like Han Solo or Obi-Wan, which are coming out too late. So probably for this, what I would want to have is cards like so Chewbacca might be reasonable. The Auzotuk Liberator gunship might actually be reasonable to contest the space arena more. It might be reasonable to put in the Cloud City Wing Guard. So what I would need to do is test some version of it with that kind of anti-aggro package and see if that's enough to stop this type of thing. So that this is a good example of kind of an early step in testing. Right now, it looks like Luke is really going to struggle against Sabine, um, at least with the current build. So I now have to think, how am I going to counter the more evolved version of that? And similarly, my opponent might be thinking, how can I beat this even more efficiently? Once he has done his sideboarding stuff. So it's an interesting dynamic, and we'll have to see what the final sideboard rolls are. But I think that ultimately it should be a situation that lends itself to some interesting gameplay. One other thing I'll notice is that I wasn't getting value out of Jeddah City. I think I never used it. And to be fair, in at least one game, I should have used it and forgot to. It's conceivable in this situation that having the 30 HP base would be better for the tempo and just like longer basic survival time. I think that it likely would have been better here. Um, so that is an interesting question. I do think that Jeddah City is better normally, but I'm not sure that it's better against aggro because of the situation where you often kind of have to have tempo. It's possible that I need to be using it like more readily and earlier in the game or similar. But as it stands, I wasn't getting a lot of value out of it. So I need to either think about how I'm going to play better to make better use of it, or I need to just cut it for the 30 HP base, which will give me more time. All right, that's gonna do it for this broadcast. Just going into some quick games there with my thought process behind these choices and how I would evolve the deck in the future to try and change things. So hope that's helpful, and we'll be back later with some more Star Wars Unlimited content. Thanks for watching, guys.